welcome to Makeable. This video is going to be about a brand new kind of PTFE tubes on the market. The so-called Capricorn Tubes offer quite a few significant advantages over regular Bowden tubes. I will show you how I mounted these on my printer and what else you can use them for, but now let's get into some closer details on this product. Capricorn calls these tubes XS Professional Grade Bowden Tubes, where XS stands for extra slippery. The inner diameter of this tube is only 1.85 mm, which is lower compared to the 2 mm of the standard Bowden tubes. This means less wiggle room for the filament, combined with a very slippery and well lubricated inside of the tube. This results in some significant improvements in quality and even print speed to a certain degree. You can immediately feel the difference. Let me grab this real quick. You can immediately feel the difference when inserting a piece of filament by hand. When you insert it, you can immediately feel it. It has basically no friction compared to the even low friction in standard Bowden tubes, but it goes in so effortlessly. See, I can grab it all the way back and just put it in and out. It's really no big deal. Whereas on the standard Bowden tube, you feel a major difference in friction right here. And the way that this works is the less friction you have inside a Bowden tube, the easier it is for the extruder to maintain a constant pressure and therefore feed rate going into the hot end. This also means that on these, by the way, pretty cool looking tubes, you get a decreased retraction distances, and that sort of results in faster printing time, but that's just, I think the difference is pretty marginal right here. So here you can see them on my original Prusa Mark II multi-material. I just changed with the old Bowden tubes, cut them to the exact same length because of the firmware, and it was good to go, worked perfect from here and everything was fine. So same thing right here on my trusty A8/AM8, just changed the standard Bowden tube with the new one. Also, one more thing, those blue clips you can see on the push fitting are called Collet Clips. They also sell together with the Capricorn tubes. They are meant to keep the push fittings pushed down right there, and therefore keep them in place. This helps on increasing the stability when the extruder does a retraction. And on the hot end side, this means that when the filament gets pulled out, the Bowden tube stays in the same place, and on the extruder side, this decreases the wear and tear when the hot end moves, which makes the PTFE tubes last longer and also increases general print quality and reliability. This is a standard E3D V6 hot end from E3D. I have no nozzle screwed on it right now because it doesn't make a difference for showing you. This is the spare one I have from upgrading my Prusa Mark II, to multi-material, because you get a new upgraded version with a better heatsink, but this will serve the purpose just as well. As you can see, an E3D style hot end usually uses a Teflon inliner going into the hot end. This also helps to define the heat break right here, and if you swap this standard liner with a cap tube, the same effects we talked about before come into play again, because even if it's because of Capricorn's better thermal properties, you again increase reliability of the printer and make a clog less likely. Since I changed my inliner to on my Mark II multi-material to Capricorn, I haven't had a single clog yet, which is totally awesome. I also could immediately recognize a quite significant improvement in quality, especially on very fine and thin details, because of the more consistent material flow. In the next step, I will show you how you can change this inliner for basically any E3D style hot end. It doesn't matter if it's a genuine one or not. I will show you how to do it for a Prusa, because Prusa usually has the PTFE tube going a bit out of the hot end, even though the original Mark II Prusa doesn't use a Bowden system. They still have a bit of a tube going out here where the filament feeds in from the extruder, and if you do this step correctly, and I will show you how to do it for the multi-material version, because again it basically doesn't make a difference if you use the best or more improved version of this, but you can then increase how easily the filament feeds, and this is especially important for the multi-material upgrade, because if you slice this inliner correctly, then the chances of a filament clog going into the hot end would increase significantly, especially on multi-material, because on every color change the filament gets pulled out all the way and another filament from another side gets put in again, and if you do this correctly, then you will basically have no problems and decrease the chances of a filament clog right here by a lot. And as I said, I didn't have one single clog since doing this. So the way I go about this is I took out the inliner from the hot end, just took it out, and then I'm gonna take another piece of Bowden tube. For this case I will just show you with the regular Bowden tube, because my blue Capricorn tube is already measured to a certain length from my new printer that's coming up. I'm gonna review that one as well. It's gonna be an Anycubic Cossel Linear Plus Delta printer, and be sure to check by again to see the review about it. But for now I'm just gonna use the standard white PTFE tube and show you how to do it. So you first want to cut a new piece of this Bowden tube exactly to the same length like you had before. You can either go ahead and use a caliper to measure it, or as I will do, just hold them side by side, take some flush cutters and cut them. For this I'm going to insert a piece of filament into the new Bowden tube, hold it right here to the same length, and then cut it. So as you can see, because of the filament I inserted, the Bowden tube doesn't get pushed in too much. Doesn't get squeezed too much, and you can just pull the filament out and get a perfect piece of PTFE tubing. For the next step, you want to go ahead and grab something like a sharp knife, or as I will do, a pointy file, and file the inside of the tube. What this does, it created some size of a bigger opening for the filament to pass in, and this is especially useful on the multi-material version of the printer, because without this you basically will have a lot of problems feeding filament into it, and on every change you might have some problems. But if you do this right and just keep doing this for a while, or like I showed you with the knife, cut it out with the knife a bit, which might be a bit faster, but you might ruin the tube a bit, but if you're careful it won't be a problem. Do this on both sides.
One eternity later.
After this step, cleaning out both these holes on both sides, cutting some kind of a bevel, you're going to want to cut it, I think chamfer is called, on one side. Just use a blade for that. You can also use a pencil sharpener and just put it in and twist it, but I will use the sharp blade because it's sufficient for what I want to do now. And cut it at a slight angle towards the tip, but don't cut it through, but just make it pointy on one end. Now this, okay, that looks good. This pointy end is going towards the bottom of the PTFE tube. This also, it's going to go on the bottom towards the hot end. You can then just reinsert it, put it all the way back in. This also increases reliability going down into the hot end of the filament. Decreases again the chances of a clog right here, where the Bowden tube ends, and yeah, just increases your reliability by a bit. It might not be the most necessary of all steps, but I've had good results with it. So yeah. So to conclude this video, let me show you these two sets of prints I printed. This one right here was printed with a standard Bowden tube, and on closer inspection you can see that there's some stringing going on. I used the same G-code tuned in for the Capricorn tubes on both set of stars, and here you can definitely see there's some stringing going on. And over here on these, the Capricorn tube ones, you can barely see any stringing. There's really only very little stringing going on. That's because I tuned it pretty well. Also, on the standard Bowden tube version set, you can see that on the base layers there was a pretty major issue. I don't know why this happened, but the bottom layer delaminated, wasn't even fused to the rest of the print. This happened when taking it off the print bed. Also right here you can again see major stringing. The one on the table is a total mess, especially compared to the Capricorn tube version. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun doing it. I would very much appreciate if you would leave me a like and also a sub. If you're interested in a review and unboxing of the upgraded version of the Anycubic Linear Plus Delta style printer, be sure to check by again soon. As soon as I receive that, I'm gonna do an unboxing and later a review, and I would be very happy to maybe have you here again. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.